Welcome to Retiring from Real Estate, Smart Ways to Keep the Income Flowing webinar that we're hosting today. My name is Randy Cochrane. I'm the Director of National Growth and Development with Equity Real Estate. We are currently a company that's in 28 states and we're growing into all 50 around the country. We're super excited to share this information with you today. One of the reasons why we're presenting this webinar in particular is we're talking to a lot of agents that are exiting the business. And the challenge with exiting the business is most agents just fade off into the sunset and don't have anything to take with them. And what we're going to be showing you today is how to actually retire from real estate and keep that income coming in. And there's a few different ways to do that. We're going to show you what those are. The first thing that you need to do, though, is you need to plan for your future. And retirement from real estate does not mean that you're walking away from everything that you've built. For a lot of agents and brokers in the business and the industry, they've been in this business for a long time. They've been 30, 40, 50 years in the industry or more. And when they leave, I always think about this from a different perspective of being either a doctor or a dentist, because doctors and dentists do very similar things to what we do in terms of building a practice, which that's what real estate agents actually have as a practice, even if they're not the broker owner. If they are the broker owner and they own the company, that's something different. But as an agent, you can be like a doctor or a dentist and have something that is a legacy for you to leave to your family. And for many real estate professionals, the idea of retirement brings up a lot of questions. So the first question is, what happens to my business that I've spent years creating? Can it continue without me? And will I still be able to earn income as I step back from the business? And the good news is, with the right preparation, the answer to all of these questions can be yes. And when you are planning on exiting a business, the first thing that you need to do is do a little introspective on your business and ask yourself, have I built a business that somebody would want to buy? And in real estate, your practice, especially if you're planning on exiting the business, needs to be more than just a personal brand. It needs to be a function. It needs to function like a business. And when you look at a lot of the automobile dealerships, for example, for a long time you would see the owner of the auto dealership on the building. It might say John Smith Toyota or Dave Ingalls Chrysler, for example, or Bill Burns Mercedes. So we saw that for years and years, but as the automobile dealers started to exit and sell their car dealerships, nobody wanted to buy them because it had somebody else's name on it. That's why now you just see Long Beach Toyota, or you see or Carlsbad Nissan, for example. So think about your company, think about your brand, and ask yourself these questions. Number one, can it run without you? Number two, are there systems and processes documented so that if something did happen to you or you did sell, that somebody can step in and immediately take over? Do you have consistent lead sources? And we call these the pillars of income for your business. And if you've been on any of our previous webinars before, one of the things that we talk about is having multiple pillars of income for your business. And then, is your database organized and nurtured? And this is what we call our CRM, or contact resource management program, that every real estate agent should have, and it should be up to date and accurate all the time. And I know that's tough for a lot of agents to do. And if that's something that you don't like doing, you're going to need to have somebody help you do that. The goal, especially from today, moving forward, is to find the gaps that are in your business to see what you need to do to position to sell. And you want to build a business that's documented, it's delegated, it's brand driven, and it should generate leads, serve clients, and close deals without your daily input, making it attractive, scalable, and valuable to your buyers. And this is a question that we ask a lot, is where are you engaged in your business? Are you the one that's doing all the business? If you're just an individual agent and you're doing everything and you don't even have a transaction coordinator or an assistant or or somebody that's helping you with all the paperwork, which is the tedious, monotonous tasks that are the non-income producing activities for us, then we really need to look at your business right now very closely to see how we need to change it to position it to sell. Now, some of you may be in production. You might have that assistant or that VA, and that's great. Um, or maybe you have a team. If you have a team, what I want you to do is look at your production and see where all the production from your team is coming from. If all the production on your team is basically coming from you, and the production isn't coming from your team members, we need to evaluate your team members. If you want to have a viable team that's easier to sell, instead of you doing 75 to 80% of all the production, your team needs to do 75 to 80% of the production. If you want to have a sellable team, it needs to be only you doing 20 to 25%. Also, if you're a broker owner and maybe you have an office, how many agents are in your office versus do you also have a team or a combination of both? Because those are different dynamics. And when somebody goes to exit the business, there's several different ways to do that. But all of these ways, like if you have a team or a brokerage, those are other sources of income and revenue that can add value to your business. And you don't have to go out and open up a company or a real estate office. If you're happy with the broker that you're with now and you want to do more than what you're currently doing as an individual agent, a team might be a good idea for you. And that's definitely a discussion we'd like to have with you. If you're going to transition or sunset your business, you need to start planning 2 to 5 years in advance. What you're going to do is you're going to identify and or mentor a successor or a potential buyer. We see a lot of doctors and dentists do this. Well, they'll bring a brand new doctor or dentist out of school. They'll bring him into the practice. They'll introduce him to all the patients over time. And those patients get used to seeing him there when they're coming in to have their teeth cleaned and their dental work done, or they're coming in for their doctor visits and their physicals and stuff. And so they're used to seeing multiple doctors and dentists in the office. And so it's not uncommon. And of course, they still have the receptionist, they still have the hygienist or the other specialists that are working with that doctor or that dentist. And so consumers are used to that now. So think about that mentor, successor, or potential buyer you might want to bring into your business. Also, you want to evaluate and improve your systems and revenue streams right now, because if you're planning on retiring in 2 to 5 years, we have to make sure that everything is order and your house is in order to get the most revenue or bang for your buck out of your business. Also, you need to organize your financials, your client contracts, and technology assets. And you definitely want to make sure that you are using a program like QuickBooks or a money manager program for your checking that is easy for you to print off a profit and loss statement. That way we can see what all of the income coming into the business is. We can see what the expenses are, and it gives us a really quick snapshot of your bottom line after all of the income comes in and all the expenses go out. Also, you're going to reduce your client-facing workload over time. Right now, especially if you wanting to transition your business over the next 2 to 5 years, what you want to do is you want to stay focused on all the listings. You go out and you list properties like crazy right now, and let's bring in that successor or that mentee or that mentee that you're mentoring and that successor, and they're going to shadow you on your listings, but you're going to get them working with all the buyers right now so that they learn the buyer's system before they step into that role of listing properties after you step away from the business. That way they can add a buyer's agent or two if they want when you decide to transition. Also, you're going to strengthen your brand assets. We want you to look at your social media, your websites, your domain names, your marketing materials, absolutely everything that you're doing that is brand facing to your client so that we can start to bring and transition that successor in over time. And then you need to prepare your clients and your sphere for the upcoming changes that are happening in your business. And the best way to do that is in your client communication and in your ongoing client events that you should be doing quarterly in your business. That way, your successor, your mentor, mentee is there and they're participating in all your events, and your clients and your sphere are getting used to interacting with them. We also need you to understand your revenue streams right now. In order to retire and keep earning, you need a clear picture of how your business generates income, and we need to break down all of your revenue sources. And for a lot of agents just go, yeah, the only place I get my income from is if I close a transaction. Well, that could be the case, and that could be your pillar of income, but there's lots of other pillars of income in real estate, and these are what we want you to help you build out over the next 2 to 5 years so that you can transition with the most amount of revenue. And again, if you own a real estate company or a branch, you want to look at your brokerage income. Your brokerage income needs to be separate from your team and your personal production. So we need to look at all of your office fees, your agent splits, your agent caps, and you want to look at what your per agent is actually worth to you on an annual basis. And sometimes it's a little easier to figure out than others. Right now, it's really easy to do. If you just took the amount of all the money, the gross income that came into your brokerage last year, take all of the agents that are in your office that are not on your team, and take that number and just divide it by the gross. That's going to give you your gross revenue per agent. Then take what your net revenue was for the year and divide that by the same agent count, and that's what you netted per agent. Everything in between is your expenses. So it becomes very easy to come up with your number. Team commissions, and this can be very different for each brand that's out there, because with team commissions, you might have them on a different split. You might be involved in a company that has a rev share program, so you have downline production as well as benefits or bonuses that happen. Also, your personal production on your own real estate deals, you need to separate that from everything else, because if you're stepping away from the business and you're no longer in production, you could still be referring those clients off and getting a percentage of the referral commission, but you're not going to be getting the whole thing. But we need you to know exactly what your gross income was and what your net income was off of your personal production last year. And this can also be taken into account over a rolling 12 months. Also, if you have real estate assets, either you have a rental, an office building that you own and you're renting offices to agents, or maybe you own an office or a building and you have other tenants in there, that can also contribute to the value of your company or your business if you sell it along with the business. Also, you have property appreciation. You also have depreciation on taxes. And I'll never forget when I first got into real estate, one of my very first mentors that I worked with, the very first thing that he said to me is, Randy, you need to go buy a building as fast as possible, because at some point in time, if you want to exit the business, then you could sell your real estate business and keep your building, and part of the buyout can be that business has to remain a tenant for a certain period of time. And at the end of the day, we're in real estate anyway, so we might as well be investing in our real estate. And then if you have a rev share program with your company, so for example, Equity Real Estate, we have a program that's called E-Rewards. And the way that E-Rewards works is anytime you're with the company and another agent is with the company that you'd referred, when that agent that you referred closes a transaction, you get $100. And sometimes that doesn't sound like a lot of money. You're like, Randy, that's only $100. But right now, our company's already paid out over $13,400,000 in $100 increments. And so that rev share adds up. And if you're coming to Equity, for example, whoever your successor or your mentor is, that can be one of your profit share agents with our e-reward program as well. That way, every time they're still closing a transaction, even after your agreement with them has ended, as long as you're just still an active agent with the company, even if you're not doing any business because of your buyout, you're still getting paid. And then, of course, if you're an agent or a broker with our company and you refer a broker to us and they open up an office, you get $40 every time that office closes in perpetuity. It can be a lot of extra income for you over time. And then think about your proprietary systems. What tools or software have you developed that are proprietary to your business that are different than everybody else? And then we have intellectual property. Intellectual property is your brand, it's domain names, it's books, it's training, it's content, it's all of the things uh, that fuel your business. And then we have ancillary services like mortgage, title, insurance, staging, property management, and referrals. Equity real estate, we have a very diverse business where we have agents that are selling residential, we have agents that are selling commercial, we have agents that are doing property management. They're doing a combination of all those things. And so really your business, your way. And property management can be a great pillar of income for your business that somebody can definitely take over. But what you want to do is you want to track each stream's past performance and future potential to show your buyers the full value of your business and which areas can deliver ongoing and passive income. Now, this is the biggest challenge when you're sunsetting or exiting your business, and it's determining the value of your business. And value in a real estate business requires structure and documentation. Typically, it's based on the net annual profit, just not the gross revenue, because we have expenses. Also, we have recurring versus one-time income. So recurring could be property management. It could be our e-reward program versus the one-time income, which is just you go out, you list a home, or you work with a buyer and that transaction closes, and you're really one and done until they do another transaction with you. And then think about the assets that you own. We talked about real estate earlier, but it could also be a moving truck. It could be equipment. It could be phone systems, computers, software. It's your CRM or your database. It's crazy when we look at these companies that have such huge values like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter. Those companies are valued based on data and people, not necessarily, I mean, yeah, they generate a ton of ad revenue, but really it's the algorithm and predicting what the consumer is going to do that is really worth all the money. And then your brand equity and reputation. What does that look like? How long have you been in the business? How have you branded yourself? Have you branded yourself as an agent that works with the real estate investors and helps them build their portfolios? Have you branded yourself as a luxury agent? Have you branded yourself as an agent that works with senior homeowners that are downsizing in today's market? What does that brand actually look like? And then we want you to look at your client database and the size and the quality of your database. And right now, it's just not your database. It actually ends up being also all of the contacts that are in your cell phone, because for a lot of real estate agents, they're not good at putting people in their CRM, but they are great at putting people in their telephone. And if you're going to be putting people in your database correctly and they're only in your phone, um, there is a program that you can download that's called Contact to Excel for your phone. You can download it from the App Store. It'll export out all of your contacts that are in your cell phone to an Excel spreadsheet so that you can get them in your database correctly in your CRM. And it's really interesting. There's a statistic that says that 7% of all the contacts in your phone are going to make a move, or somebody that they know that they are a close friend or a relative with, they know somebody that's going to make a move within the next 12 months. So if you have 100 people in your phone, that's 7 transactions. If you have 1,000 people in your phone, that's 70. And so the question is out of all those transactions and that 7% of your database that's going to make a move in the next 12 months, are they going to move with you, whether it's a sell or a buy or even a rental? Also, what does your online presence look like? Your website and your website traffic, your SEO, your domain names, and your engagement from your audience. When you look at all of these influencers on social media, they're getting paid by eyeballs looking at what they're posting online. And if you just want to up level up your brand, you have to engage in social media, even if you don't like to do it. And then you also want to look at your systems and automations for efficiency, meaning that if and this is a challenging part about building a real estate business, especially one that has value that people want to buy. And I always equate it to this. When you are building your real estate business, whether it's your individual business, you're building a team, or you're building a brokerage, you're building an airplane in flight. And oftentimes it starts out as a little Cessna 150, right? If it's just you individually, but over time it continues to grow. And the next thing you know, you're flying the Concorde and you've got, just a plane full of amazing producing team members and agents. And it doesn't matter if you want that small plane or that big cargo plane, it takes time to build it. And every time that you get to another level in your business, things are going to break. And when they break, we have to fix them. And those are the systems and the automations. Verl Workman, which is a phenomenal real estate coach, trainer, mentor, great friend of mine. Anytime you hear him speak, one of the things that he says a lot is that if you do anything more than 3 times in your business, it needs to have a system behind it. And that's so true. And I know all of the other trainers and gurus out there preach a lot of the same things, but are they making sure that you're following through? And like if you were to schedule a call with me after this webinar today, and we jumped on a Zoom, and I asked you to pull up your CRM, or I asked to pull up your transaction tracking, or I asked you to pull up your P&L, could you do it? And would it be up to date and accurate? The answer is no to those things. Those are things that we need to put on your checklist right now of things that we need to start working on. The next thing that we're going to talk about is outlining transition steps in your timeline. When we talked earlier about identifying your successor, this could be a team member, it could be a partner, it could be an outside buyer, it could be somebody right now that doesn't even have their real estate license, but they want to come into real estate. And so this gives you an opportunity to have them go through, get their license. They get to mentor and shadow with you and basically become an extension of you so that you're almost identical. So that when you do transition, and of course, this person, when you do that, you're going to want to do a personality profile to make sure that they are like you. And sometimes having somebody that's a successor that's not like you could be a good thing. But if they're truly replacing you, you need to have somebody that just walks the walk and talks the talk like you do. And then that training period, that shadowing, that co-listing, and that shared marketing, based on that person's experience or background, this may take a very short period of time. Somebody might be able to come walk right in the door and take everything over. Others, they might need a little bit more hand holding and nurturing. And then number 3 is, how do we gradually hand off the business? And how are we shifting responsibilities and client communications? And a great way to do this is put a successor, a mentor in place, and then plan a 1-month vacation. Go somewhere amazing. Go to Europe for a month. Do not take your computer. If you need to communicate, Wi-Fi and a cell phone after business hours with that person, and let's see if that person can really run the business for 30 days while you're gone. It's amazing because the true test on whether or not you have a viable business that can not just run but can grow without you is when you step away. I'll never forget, we had a friend that had an illness and they had to step away from the business for about 6 months. And while they dealt with that challenge, and they had built a team, and they had a really strong person on their team that was like their shadow. And ironically, when that person came back from their challenge and their battle, their business was actually bigger and functioning better than when they left. And when that happens, you know that you now have something viable that you can definitely transition and sell. Number 4 is the monitoring phase. This is where we're staying involved as an advisory role. Think of yourself as the board of directors for the business. And what you're doing is you're basically overseeing everything to find out, again, where the gaps are at and what might be broken during the transition. And then we can just fill those in along the way. And then step number 5, this is that full transition where you get to step back and fully rely on passive income. And there's lots of real estate brokers and agents that have been in the industry. They've been able to step away from the business, still generate income, and travel and live their lives. It reminds me of some friends of mine. They were from uh, North Carolina, and during the pandemic, they've been in the business a long time. They bought an RV, and because they couldn't really meet with people face to face, literally drove around the whole country, sold real estate virtually, and then after the pandemic, just never went back because they don't have to. And to me, that's exciting. You want your business, and this is a term that we use all the time with our agents in our company and on our team, is you want to be what we call click and mortar. Okay, not brick and mortar, click and mortar. What that means is laptop, Wi-Fi, cell phone, close transactions from anywhere in the world. When you're thinking about innovative content and strategies and transitioning your business, you want to think about your payout schedule. Think about how and when you'll be paid, whether it's upfront, monthly, or a profit share over time. And this right here, this is where you want to talk with your CPA and tax advisor about implications. We recently brought out one of our brokers in Colorado not too long ago, and based on their conversation with their CEO tax advisor, they wanted a payment up front, which was very significant. Uh, and then they have a buyout quarterly over 7 years. So at the end of every quarter, they're getting paid for the next 7 years. And they've been able to retire. They have a phenomenal residual income coming in, but they did that to minimize their tax consequences. So that's why we have our CPAs, tax advisors, and those specialists helping us with our businesses. Also, you need to have a performance milestone in place, because if you have performance milestones, what you're able to do is you can tie bonuses to your buyout over time. For example, if sales explode or you are retaining a certain number of agents in the company or team members or clients, or you have somebody that takes over the business but takes your systems, your tools, your ideas, and your strategies, builds out another pillar of income that you helped them or identified over time. You want a piece of that revenue because you helped them build it. And then think about the buyout terms. You need to clarify whether the business is bought outright or over time and those conditions. And then you need to have a non-compete and confidentiality to protect your brand and client base with clear restrictions. And of course, these are definitely agreements that we want our attorneys writing for us, because you are selling a business. And just like real estate, when we work with a seller and a buyer or a tenant, if it's not in writing, it's not said. And so you need to have everything laid out specifically exactly how that's going to work and what that transition looks over time. Also, you want to prepare for contingencies. And these are things that you're going to want in your agreement, because not every transaction goes as planned. You need to build a safety net by preparing for different scenarios. For example, what if the buyer fails? You sell your business to that person and then the new owner goes out of business. What happens to that income? Do you get your business back? Can you resell it again? And how does that look? And what does that look like for you? And then also, this is unfortunate. You do have to plan for an unexpected death. And it could be a natural cause, it could be an accident, but these are just things that we plan for in contingencies in our operating agreement for our businesses anyway, our articles of organization, and definitely if we're setting up our living trusts and our wills and are protecting our assets. And they need to name and document a legal successor. Oftentimes it could be a spouse that might not even be licensed, that has to wrap up the business. And or you just basically step back in again, take it back over and offer it for sale to somebody else. Also, you need to think about a person's health or life changes. This includes flexible causes for reassignment or role adjustments. And one of the things that we definitely suggest that you do is when somebody is buying out your business to help you with the unexpected death or health of that person, is have the business buy a life insurance policy on that person at or above the value of your business so that if something does happen, that you still get paid out by the insurance and that person's last wishes can be taken care of by their loved ones. And then those legal protections, ensuring that you have the insurance and a succession plan and estate planning in place. And this also includes your E&O insurance if you're a broker owner, and also includes your auto insurance policies if that's part of that. If you have automobiles or a moving truck, that's part of your buyout agreement as well, that you still need to be listed as an additional rider on that policy to protect you. Contingency planning protects your legacy, your income. No matter what happens, it keeps legal documents up to date and it's easy to access. Now, when you are in real estate, maybe you're brand new to real estate and you haven't even thought about retiring yet. You're young, you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to go in the business. This is something that you want to think about right now, because when you look at big businesses and they're setting them up, they're already thinking about their exit strategy 50 and 100 years down the line. And so you might not be sunsetting within the next 2 to 5 years. Maybe it's 5 to 10, but let's start getting all these things in place and let's start thinking about it correctly. You definitely want to protect your legacy with the right brokerage. And when you think about the word legacy, and legacy comes in 3 stages. The first stage of legacy is you have to build it. And building legacy takes time, it takes effort, and it takes energy, and it's hard, especially when the market changes or shifts. And myself now, I've been in this industry as an agent broker capacity since December of 2000. And I've been through many different markets during that period of time. And you have to shift your pillars of income during that period of time. And so as you build your legacy, just start and don't stop. So that's the first. The second part of legacy is while you're alive, live your legacy. Build a lifestyle that supports your business, not a business that supports your lifestyle. And we're going to work, so you might as well work towards something worthwhile anyway. So while you're alive, live your legacy, share it with your loved ones, your significant other, your friends, your church group, your charities, however you perceive your legacy to be while you're alive. But then the third part of legacy is leave it. Who are you going to be leaving your legacy to? Myself personally, I have a legacy business where my daughter is a phenomenal real estate broker with our company, and she's a business partner. She's also a family member, and she is part of my legacy. And so think about what your legacy looks like, because she's 40 years old right now. She's got a much longer lifespan of business life than I do. And when you retire from real estate, that doesn't mean you give up your income. With the right planning, you can build a business that supports you for years to come, even after you've stepped back. And by joining a set fee brokerage like Equity, this can play a powerful role in the process, because with predictable lower overhead and the freedom to build your own brand, you retain more of your earnings and gain the flexibility to scale your business your way. Unlike traditional brokerages that cut into your profits, a set fee model empowers you to structure a business that's not only profitable, but it's transferable, and it's easier to transfer because we know what the set business expenses are on a per closed transaction basis. Your business is worth protecting, and with the right brokerage behind you, it can continue working for you long after you retire. I know that this is a lot of information at one time. For everybody that registered today, we're going to be emailing out to you an ebook that's going to outline the exact steps that you need to take to transition and sunset your business within the next 2 to 5 years. Also, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me or scan the QR code below to schedule a 15-minute meeting, a 15-minute phone call, a 30-minute web meeting, or a 1-hour web meeting. And myself personally, I have sold a real estate franchise in the past. I purchased a real estate team I've also sold a real estate team. And so I've been through all of this already, even though I'm still in the business and the industry and growing brokerages, growing teams, and growing ancillary services and different pillars of income that all have value that add to the bottom line, but could also be broken up and sold individually over time. So again, thank you for joining us today. We know your time's valuable. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call. If you want to go back and watch this webinar replay, it will be posted on our YouTube channel here shortly. That will be in the email that we send out to you. If you are watching this on the YouTube and you would like a copy of the ebook after you have watched the video, scan that QR code and schedule a 15-minute phone call with me or shoot me a text message at 801-573-4935 and just say, hey, Randy, I just watched the webinar on how to retire from real estate, smart ways to keep the income flowing, and I'd like the ebook. And just text me your email address and we will always send it right out to you. So thanks again for joining us today. Everybody go be powerful, be productive, be safe, and we'll see you on our next webinar coming up here in July. Bye-bye.